Matt Bowman, welcome to the Liberated Podcast.
Thanks, Carrie. Great to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you here. So, we have a lot to cover. I want my listeners to really get a great understanding of what My Tech High is and all of the success that you've had over the years of building it. But let's start with kind of who you are. What was your background? How did you find your way to education?
That's great. Great question. So I was born to two parents who were educators. So education kind of runs in the blood. And actually, I've looked back in family history, Carrie, and found that I have a great great grandma that also was a teacher. So it's kind of fun to look through that and see what inspired my life to become in education. So my dad was a college professor. My mom was a high school teacher, and just grew up. Education is something that is extremely important to our family. On the entrepreneur side, I started my first education entrepreneur company when I was a teenager. So as a 17-year-old, I created an all sports camp for neighborhood kids, and I would teach them all the different sports that I knew and loved and made money. And it was really exciting to be able to see how education has value. It's important for people to, even on the local neighborhood community education side has always just been a really important part of my life. Then when I went to college, I got a degree in elementary education. I taught sixth grade up in Washington State and just loved it. And as I was a teacher up there, I got a grant to bring this new thing called the internet into the classroom. And this was in like 96. So it's been a long time that I've been involved with kind of alternative education, online learning. I brought that into my classroom, and I saw engagement of students just go off the charts as they wanted to build projects that someone else in Europe would see. We had a sister school, and that was way more engaging for them than just having their neighbor friend see it, or even just their parents see it. So I fell in love with online learning and wanted to see how I could expand that world. I got my master's degree in education at that time, focused on public school choice models. And so it's really interesting to look back and how those worlds all convened. I then left the classroom. I got a job offer from a tech company to run their online education programs globally. So I worked at that tech company in their education department, serving their corporate clients, their partner network around tech education online. And so then now we're in our 14th year of My Tech High. But back then I wanted to merge those careers. Online education, focused on tech and entrepreneurship, areas I love and the schools don't teach enough of. And I wanted it to be free for all. So I dusted off my master's program around public school choice and realized I wanted to partner with public schools to deliver an online personalized education program for students who learn best at home, focused on tech and entrepreneurship. So that's the story of My Tech High.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about that. You and I were recently at an event with about 25 education entrepreneurs in Utah, where you live and where My Tech High is headquartered. And everyone in that room knows My Tech High, thinks of you as sort of a rock star. And also many of them use My Tech High if they're homeschooling families or doing some kind of other innovative approach. So, what is it? Tell us a little bit more about what is it and how do families use My Tech High?
So yes, that was a great event, and it was really fun to see education entrepreneurs come together and know that My Tech High has played a role in helping that come to pass. So when we started, we thought, you know what, we're gonna go find the best online curriculum available and source it for families and build our own tech and entrepreneurship courses, because those aren't often, at least 14 years ago, there was not much in the market. And so we built our own tech and entrepreneurship courses, but then we decided to source core curriculum. And so we sent out a survey after that first year and asked our parents, okay, who should we standardize on? And listed all the leading providers of core curriculum. And the answers came back with a different provider for a different subject by student. And we were fascinated with that parents knew how to tailor an education to their child. They wanted to buy a certain provider for math and a different provider for English and a different option for science. And so that was the model. And included in those responses were community education providers. And that's something we hadn't originally realized how powerful it was to view education more broadly than just either in a school or in a digital education platform. And we added kind of that third party option of community education resource and found that that was really attractive to families because they were already doing that and wanted to be able to tap into piano lessons, horseback riding lessons, math tutoring, even like Sylvan Learning Centers, Kumon tutoring, and tap into the community education network that was out there, homeschooling co-ops, museums and planetariums and zoos that offer classes during the day, dance studios, just you name it. So then what we realized is that we started seeing families look for community education partners that would alter their programs or add a class during the day. And we started seeing this growth of education entrepreneurship occurring across the state. And I really think that some of what we do is generating education entrepreneur inspiration. And in fact, one of my favorite things was on LinkedIn, a graduate of My Tech High a couple years after she left our program connected me with me on LinkedIn, and I looked at her bio and it was education entrepreneur. I've opened up a math tutoring company to help My Tech High families. And I was just like, oh, that's second generation education entrepreneur now that we've created. And I couldn't have been more happy. It was just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're really not only serving as a platform that enables existing programs to reach more families and kind of have a better outreach program for those existing families, but you're also catalyzing new education entrepreneurs who see the ability to use My Tech High to expand their offerings or introduce more offerings. And it's exciting to see that. And I think also a testament to the ways in which school choice policies can help to activate and spread education entrepreneurship and create new founders for micro schools and other kinds of programming. So that's exciting to see. But you're not just in Utah. You've expanded to many other states. Tell us how that's going and where you're at now.
Yeah, so after a few years of doing it in Utah, we realized the model worked well, and we started reaching out to other superintendents in other states. And we currently now serve over 20,000 students across 10 states. So it's been fun to just kind of see the model work in other states and really be able to help families access high quality education curriculum at no cost to them in all of those states in which we operate. So it's really exciting to see that kind of expansion work.
And quite a variety of states too. Can you tell us a little bit about the range of states you have?
Yeah, so we have a lot of them in the Intermountain West. So Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, Arizona, Colorado, Oregon are states in our portfolio, as well as North Dakota, Indiana, Tennessee, and we operate in Florida in partnership with a Step Up for Students model. And so it's kind of exciting to see a variety of states from different political spectrums as well embrace that this model can work. And one of the key things we have found is it works because we operate within the existing public school system. So there's pros and cons to that approach for public school choice advocates, but I think it's a testament that it works by having us sit within the districts and innovate within the public school system instead of try to do something completely outside of it. And it works to be able to help families access the curriculum and education they want through district partners.
Yeah, and in such a customized way and really focus on personalized learning, which more and more parents realize they want. You are also heading back to your roots. You said that you've had some discussions with the folks in Washington State where you started teaching. So continue to expand and grow your offerings not only at the K to 12 level or, sort of what we would think of as kind of primary and secondary school, but into the college level as well. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so about 5 or 6 years ago, our parents, we always ask them, what else can we bring to the catalog? What else can we bring to our program that will help you as families? And overwhelming, the feedback about 5 or 6 years ago was, Matt, our kids have loved their personalized high school experience, and we send them off to college, and it's not as engaging as they had hoped. And so parents said, Matt, go innovate in higher ed. And you can imagine my first reaction was, no way, I can't touch higher ed. That's just a beast to deal with. But the parents said, please do it. And so I spent a year researching all the different innovations in higher ed. And I said, you know what? I want to bring something to our families. And I found an amazing program. At the time was called College for America at Southern New Hampshire University. And so I flew out to Manchester, New Hampshire, met with a team who was under the innovation direction of SNHU, because SNHU has a strong brand in adult learning, online learning. But they created College for America as a partner-driven organization that was low cost, competency-based, interdisciplinary curriculum, and things that I just am a big fan of all those principles. So it was a natural fit for us to work with College for America. And so we brought that to our Utah families, and we had, I think, 15 students take a chance on it that first year, and they just loved it. Then we grew, to 40 kids, and then over 100 students the next year. And it just kept growing of students who wanted competency-based, accredited associate degree in an early college online format in an affordable cost. And we brought all those things to families. They absolutely loved it. In fact, I have two of my own children have earned degrees through College for America. So I have both the perspective as a father and as an educator, and just think they have just done it so well. One of the key things they've helped us learn is this grading principle of mastered or not yet. And I've just adopted it as my favorite model of learning, where we all have things that are not yet in our lives, and that's okay. Whereas in education, sometimes it's like a pass or fail, or an A or an F on a test or a paper, and that's it. And you move on. And with a mastered or not yet model, you're able to keep working on those not yets and turn them into mastered. And then I add on that the interdisciplinary approach that they've done. It's truly innovative. And so we've been working with them for 5 or 6 years now. They have reported recently that our MyTech High students are outperforming their whole network in terms of completion and masteries of credits. So I'm really proud about that. And so we've also expanded to other partners. We've worked with Snow College in Utah to help them build a competency-based online associate degree. And we have hundreds of students who have chosen that. And we just love to add options to our menu for things that work best for families. And we currently have some kids working on their bachelor's degree while they're still in the K-12 system. And in fact, had one student last year, she earned her elementary education degree online and did some student teaching in person in a local district. And I was like, that is so cool to have an elementary education graduate at 18. And now she's going to go off and teach school and love it. So it's just a fun story. That's on the college side. I could also spend equal amount of time on what we've done with early college around industry certifications, including the tech ones on AWS and Google, and cybersecurity programs we offer, and full stack boot camps we offer. And we've had 17-year-olds get jobs as a junior web developer at a tech company in Utah because they've gone through the boot camp already. and fully paid for by the My Tech High program. So free to families, early college, early career. It's really just celebrating the mix of all. Another one is Praxis that Isaac Morehouse started. We have students who have gone through the Praxis program and absolutely love it. Isaac has done a great job with building that model of apprenticeships, internships. That's really the next generation of path to career is through apprenticeships, it seems. So it's really fun to see options out there for families.
Yeah, I mean, you're such an entrepreneur, right? You see where there's needs, you see where there's gaps in education, and then you go off and close those gaps and build new solutions for families. And so, you've been working with My Tech High now for over a decade. What have you seen as sort of the changes in terms of what parents are looking for? How has education evolved over that time?
So in many ways, but what comes to first to mind is just the past few years going through COVID. We had, as you can imagine, a huge growth of enrollment during the summer of COVID, the summer of 2020, just literally doubling every week kind of growth. And it was just crazy. And a lot of the families said that, we're COVID homeschoolers only. We're only going to do My Tech High for a year. And so I thought that was interesting, but they were a different group of parents with different needs. And so we added different options to the program that maybe traditional homeschoolers hadn't wanted or hadn't chosen. And so we had this different set of COVID homeschoolers join our program, and we were able to just quickly turn and add more options that met their needs. And as it turns out, with remote working remaining a thing that now companies embrace, we haven't shrunk enrollment. We've continued to grow enrollment even after the 1 year of COVID. And families have said, you know what, I really like this flexibility. I really like this personalization. I really like it that we can have a home base in a state that you operate in, but we can go travel RV, or we can, go live in another country for a month or two and experience culture there while still accessing the support, consistency of a My Tech High program. And I think that remote worker status and the digital nomad that some call it is here to stay. And as more remote workers are in the market, they want remote learning because they don't want to be tied to a brick and mortar school, but still want to be able to access high quality resources at no cost to them. So it's really interesting to see how the changing workforce has also impacted education, and schools are trying to figure that out. In fact, I was chatting with a superintendent up in Seattle who said they normally have, like 6,000 kindergartners enroll every year. It's been that way for decades. And this year they had 2,500 sign up. And they're all asking themselves, where did all these children go? What's changed? And I think the public school system needs to start recognizing the changing dynamics of the workforce, of families who want to have more control over their education and personalize it for their children. And I think that's really just driving that supply to adapt. And so I'm excited to see how that continues to evolve.
Yeah, so we've really seen that activation of supply as more teachers launch microschools and other similar programs, learning pods and homeschooling collaboratives, and parents do the same to help meet their children's needs and the needs of others in their community. So it's really been skyrocketing growth in education entrepreneurship, especially over the past couple of years. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges for education entrepreneurs, both in the state of Utah, where you are, but also nationally as you've scaled elsewhere?
Great question. I think a couple things that pop out is there's lots of competition. So there is where maybe in the past people could settle for something that wasn't quite as good as they wanted, but now there's really a lot of competition. So I would say one of the challenges education entrepreneurs need to do is focus on quality and focus on making sure that they're listening to their customers and hearing what they need and providing them that. Instead of just saying, oh, you know what, we're going to call an online learning class a recorded video with a worksheet. That is not high quality education, and parents demand much higher quality than that. And so whether it's engagement or self-directed learning models that are incorporated, or interdisciplinary projects that tie to a real world problem and solution need, those are some of the things that get me excited about curriculum providers that are starting to look at how do we make a real authentic learning experience happen, not just crank through content and test and quiz at the end and have a couple assignments they need to submit and call that learning. Really around tapping into helping the student choose their own adventure and still have that be part of a learning experience where they can have resources and experts and mentors and guides around something they care about and can adapt and customize that learning experience to their passions and purpose of their own life. And we see some start to do that, and it's really kind of cool.
And what about some of the providers that partner with My Tech High? You know, these are often sort of sole proprietors just trying to open up a business, like you mentioned, a tutoring business. What are you finding are some of their challenges?
Getting the word out is one that we often hear. They kind of the classic entrepreneur challenge of if you build it, they'll come. No, you've got to go out and do your work to bring them to you. You need to go find interested parties and parents and families that you serve well. And then you also then have to deliver well. Once you want, just traditional business 101, right? Where you get a lead, you get a customer, you need to serve them well to keep them, retain them, and then help them spread the word to other families that like what you do. And so that's one challenge. The other is, business startup costs. Those are challenging to any business of how do I launch this program I have in my head? How do I put it into practice? It's easy to dream. It's hard to then execute it and make it happen with whether that's rent or online access or programs that work well or onboarding or customer support or, all the traditional business challenges that any small business faces, I think apply to an education entrepreneur as well.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for these education entrepreneurs, maybe in thinking about how best to market, how best to deal with some of these startup challenges? What recommendations do you have to get them going?
My advice would be what I'd say to any entrepreneur is just start. So the hardest thing is that many want to kind of spend a year or 2 or 3 designing, developing, and then launching. Well, I think I really see the value in launch with something, kind of the minimum viable product model, launch with something and then adapt and iterate and pivot from there. Instead of trying to think that you can build a perfect education company in the closet and then launch 2 years later, just get out in the market, try to do something. I tell students that I work with, often the first dollar is the hardest. So go get that first dollar instead of waiting to build it so you think it's perfect. Go get a dollar first and then adapt and iterate from there. And I think that has helped people to realize, you know what, if I can deliver a high quality experience, they'll come back. And so I can adapt, I can ask them what they want, I can survey them, I can, kind of evolve what I do with them and view it as a partnership with your customers of what do they want, what can you deliver, how can you come together. That's the ultimate exchange of value businesses are trying to achieve, is create value for both sides. And so as you can do that well, it'll grow and it'll work. And then I'd also say, and get to your 10th failure fast. That's a principle I was taught early on. And so My Tech High is definitely not my first company. I'm grateful that it's successful, but I had at least 10, maybe 20 failed pursuits that really taught me things that I needed to know before My Tech High could succeed. So if you haven't had your 10 failures, keep pushing to get your 10th failure, and then the next one might just succeed. So
I love that. Right. Embrace the failure because it's one more step to your success and is
yes.
filled with all of those learning experiences. I also love that you practice what you preach in terms of being agile and adaptive and iterative and thinking about evolving My Tech High and your, kind of previous entrepreneurial pursuits. So what is next for My Tech High? What does the future look like for that company and for you as well?
Just keep doing the same. We really see that this is something that is needed. One of the next steps for me is really trying to join people like you and share the story that we've done and inspire others to do the same. We're not going to be in every state and every community and every city in the world. That's never been our goal. We want to inspire others to create their own education pursuits. And so I'm launching a mattbowmanspeaks.com so that people can access resources and tools to help them create and think differently about their child's education. So that's something I'm working on. Maybe follow your footsteps to write a book about that, and really be able to help provide some resources that will help families access a mindset that is around thinking differently about education. And I really think that this is kind of an interesting time where many families are starting to say, okay, maybe it's time for me to think a little differently about my child's education and do a little hybrid between my public school and a little bit of homeschool and a little bit of community education and a little bit of online learning and a little book-based learning from the library. Like, there are low-cost ways to do it and really create a personalized education model for families is something I really want to help support.
Oh, I love that we're going to get more insights from you going forward, and that you're really going to help other education entrepreneurs do something similar or figure out what's their passion is and then create some services and products around that. So that's exciting to see. So the website is mytechhigh.com. And Matt, what is the best way for people to find and follow you?
On LinkedIn, Matt Bowman on LinkedIn. And there's lots of Matt Bowmans, but just find the one around My Tech High.
Matt Bowman, thank you again for being on the Liberated podcast.
Thanks, Carrie.